Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb Hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome.
Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad.
Welcome to another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. I'm your host, Jesper, and today I'm very excited to talk to Daniel Parker, who is the founder of AirManaged, which is a vacation rental management company in Edinburgh in Scotland, and he manages over 100 listings. So Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
How is life in Edinburgh?
It's great, yeah. We're in June. It's our Scottish summer. We're getting some nice weather, which doesn't happen very often in their country. Even though we've got beautiful scenery, the weather's not the best. And we're just about to go into August, which is the busiest time in Edinburgh when a city doubles in size, and that's where I'm sure some of you that listen to this might be coming to Edinburgh for the Fringe Festival in August.
It's called the French Festival?
Yeah, Fringe Festival. So it's gotten really, really big in like the last 20 years. So I'm from Edinburgh. I've lived here most of my life. And when I was growing up, it was popular. There's a lot of locals going to it, but now it's a huge international event where you're getting hundreds of thousands of people coming from all over the world to come and see all these shows.
It's interesting to have a French festival in the UK.
Oh, no, sorry, not French. It's called the Fringe Festival.
Oh, the Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, French Festival.
I'm sure there's lots of French shows at it. Yeah, but Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Awesome. What is it all about?
It's like a big arts festival where they have everything like comedians, plays, street performances. There's everything. So there's paid shows, which is a lot of theatre and world famous comedians, and then there's a big, huge part of it which is a free festival as well. So you get people, if you've got enough money, you can go put on a show, and then people come to it, and if they like it, they give you some money. If they don't like it, they don't give you any money. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, I've been to Edinburgh a long time ago, back in 2002 when I was studying in the UK. What I remember most from it was the graveyard tour where they really tried to scare you, and it was actually kind of scary, I have to say.
Yeah. Edinburgh's a pretty haunted place, yeah.
The festival that you're talking about, it's a really big festival, right? So you're saying it attracts a lot of visitors from all around the world.
Yes.
How do you adjust your prices?
Well, we try not to be too greedy. Some people will take advantage of this. So we use pricing tools. So we use Pricelabs for our company, and that takes into account the increase in volume. Some people double, triple their prices, some even higher than that. But you don't want to be too greedy and take advantage of people. It's great. We've got this busy city and it's bringing lots of money to the local economy, but these are people that come to Edinburgh other parts of the year as well. So you don't want to scare them off.
Got it. So you do raise the prices, but you don't go overboard.
Yeah, we don't want to go overboard because we look at most of the properties we manage are full time and all year round. So yeah, it's great. It's a really busy month. We make a lot of revenue, but we don't want to rip people off, and we want to make sure that we get those good reviews consistently. And if you're charging too much, even though people do book your properties and they come and stay, they might still leave a review saying, "Yeah, I felt I paid too much," that kind of thing. Because local hotels in the city jack up their prices really, really highly, and I think that's one of the reasons that Airbnb does so well in Edinburgh, is because it's offering another short-term insights. It's offering such good value for money, because you might go stay in. So in our country, there's a chain of hotels that are called travel lodges, which they're like, I don't know what might be a similar one in the States, for example, but it's like a basic hotel. It's okay, it's fine if you're traveling. They're pretty cheap. but like a hotel like that might jack up their price to £300 a night, £400 a night, when usually you might be paying, £80 a night, that kind of thing.
Right. And for those who don't know how much a pound is worth, I think it's like about $1.50 or so.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, like you could be paying up to $500 a night for a hotel that's usually worth $100 a night.
Right, and that's a pretty basic hotel you're saying, right? Like something.
Yeah.
I think in the US, like the equivalent would be like something like a Super 8 or Motel 8 or something like that.
Yeah. Like it's got a shower, it's got a bed, it's comfortable enough, but if you get that, you should be happy. Right. I don't want to discredit them, but it's fine. It is what it is. You get what you pay for.
Oh,
but if you pay that kind of money, if you paid $500 a night for a hotel room, you would probably expect quite a luxurious hotel room. Something really, really nice.
Have you ever heard of the concept of the Formula One?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Formula One hotels. Have you ever stayed at one?
No, I've never stayed at one of those.
So this is probably, I would say that's probably like the most basic type of hotel that exists, right? It doesn't have any people working there. Like it's literally like it's kind of like a closet with a small bed. Or sometimes I've stayed in one in Sweden actually, and it's basically like a super small space, but they really make use of the space very efficiently by putting like bunk beds in there and stuff, and
kind of like the pod hotels in Japan, that kind of thing.
What's that?
Kind of like the pod hotels in Japan.
Okay, I'm not familiar with those.
All right, good.
But I do understand why people would use those in Japan, because the hotels in Japan are extremely expensive, especially in Tokyo. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk a bit more about your management company. Let's start with like how did you come up with the idea of starting one in the first place?
So I got into property a few years ago and changed what I had. My portfolio was mostly long term. So when I started on the outlook of this, I started mostly as investment on these properties, and saw that you can make more money in the short term letting game. I started using a management company, and the service wasn't so great, and it inspired me to create my own, because I heard a lot of other people saying that the service they were receiving wasn't so great. And a lot of the larger property management companies out there, vacation rental management companies out there, some of them class themselves as technology companies, whereas we set out we're a service. We want to provide a really good service. We're not going to develop a software or anything like that. So that was my goal, was just to create a really, really good service and grow from that. And also, I really enjoy property, maximizing yields from property, finding downtrodden properties, turning them around, making them look really nice, get for short-term letting, but also sharing our city with tourists and getting them to see our wonderful city, because I'm lucky enough to live here, and I've thought about traveling and living in other cities, but I can never leave. We've got a view. If you ever come to Edinburgh, well, you've been to Edinburgh, you've got Princes Street, you go along there, you've got the views up to our castle up on the rock, you've got the Royal Mile and the Old Town, which is really, really famous. There's not many cities in the world where you get to experience this much history and take in this much culture. It's amazing. It's kind of why I started this.
And Edinburgh is a pretty Airbnb friendly location, is it?
Yeah, it's friendly. It is friendly. So there's not a lot of legislation at the moment. So you've got cities like London where they brought in the 90-day limitation. I think that was just over a year ago. At the moment, we don't have any legislation like that. It would probably change in the future due to similar situations in big Airbnb cities around the world, where it's assisting with shortage and affordable rents, that kind of thing. So I'm sure that legislation will come in and change it. Most residents really like it. You get a lot of people who rent out spare rooms, or in peak times like August will say, hey, why don't I rent out my house and go on holiday and let someone come and stay here for the fringe, and that'll pay for me to go on holiday somewhere for a month, So we have clients in that game as well, who just want to do it for a month in August. yeah, Scotland's quite well famous for being friendly, so it's very friendly Airbnb, tourism, all that kind of thing.
Well, enjoy it while it lasts, because it definitely seems like more and more cities are bringing in all sorts of regulations and stuff. But
Yeah.
I hope it's not going to be too strict for you.
Yeah, I definitely can. I can understand why legislation needs to come in as well. You know, you need to make sure that properties are safe, and so and up to a level that people, when they stay, they have a good time. Because it's like Uber. So in some countries, that's completely there's no legislation with it. You know, with the shared economy, and then others like in our so it's the same in Edinburgh for Uber. You have to be a registered taxi driver, private hire taxi driver, which means you've got to go sit tests. You've gone through a check to make sure you've not got any criminal background, that kind of stuff. So I guess there needs to be the same kind of thing for Airbnb to make sure that hosts are safe, the properties are safe, all that kind of thing, and that gives people a sense of comfort when they're coming to stay in these properties. Because you know, obviously, when you go and you book a property and there's lots of reviews saying how great the place is, how great the host is, you know that that's a good place to go stay. But if they're brand new and they've not got any reviews, and there's no legislation with any checks or anything like that, you're not, you know, you're less likely to book that property because you don't know how safe it might be and how great that host might be. Yeah, we're lucky at the moment, but I'm sure legislation will change, and hopefully it's sensible legislation that doesn't limit the amount of days, because Edinburgh is a tourist city 365 days of the year. We've always got big events on. So you've got the Fringe, you've got New Year, which is really popular. Hogmanay, people come from all over the world. We've got marathons. There's at the moment, what was on last weekend, there's the Edinburgh International Film Festival. There's something on just about every weekend that draws tourists to Edinburgh. So hopefully the people that, you know, bring in legislation keep it sensible, make sure it's safe, and don't limit bringing people to Edinburgh.
Are you pretty close to Lake Loch Ness?
Loch Ness, it's not too far. That's up in the Highlands. So it's about 3.5 hour drive, depending how fast you go.
Because I think when most people think about Scotland, they probably think about the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, Nessie, yeah.
So I gotta ask you this: like, does it exist?
Does Nessie exist? Oh, I don't know. You'll need to go and see. You'll need to go and find out for yourself.
I actually went. I couldn't find her. But who knows? Maybe she's hiding somewhere.
She must have been sleeping that day.
But I remember some really cool castles around the lake that I visited, which was awesome.
Yeah, Loch Ness is really, really beautiful there as well. Great place to go and chill out, go hike.
So let's go back to the management company, and specifically, when you decided to start this company, like what some of the challenges I can imagine are, how do you find people to manage their listings?
Sure. So that's the biggest challenge for any new company, is getting clients. So I've got experience in my previous company I used to work for before I started this. I was a business development director, so that's sales, that's getting new clients in. I work closely with the marketing department as well. So I had a good idea of how to get people in as clients and how to keep them. So I've got that skill set. But as a startup, you don't have very much money. I'm 100% owned, and we've not borrowed any money or anything like that. So to start with, it was reaching out to friends and family, people that I knew had properties, those kind of thing, even colleagues. So my first client was my old boss. So yeah, speaking to as many people as possible, relevant people that you know have properties, that kind of thing. Also did some kind of cheeky things as well, like going on Gumtree. I'm sure every country around the world has Gumtree. In America, you've got Craigslist, which is much more popular. Going in there, finding people who had properties that they were looking to let out, and then getting in touch with them saying, hey, have you ever thought about putting this as a short-term rental property on Airbnb, Booking.com, that kind of thing? And like, oh, yeah. Why don't I do that? And just you building up our client base slowly, and then reinvesting money that we're starting to make into Google ads and SEO and things like that. Because the guy I run this company with, a guy called Michal Breslin, he's a really great marketer who's really good at SEO and PPC and Google ads and those kind of things. So we were targeting our competition, so that, if you went and Googled our competition or Googled short-term letting in Edinburgh, Airbnb Edinburgh, we'd come up, that kind of thing. And then once we got a good client base, we grew through referrals. So offering a good service. So, our customers would speak to their friends who've got properties. So, hey, I work with this company called AirManaged. They're really, really good. I know that you're thinking about putting your property in Airbnb, or you've already got an Airbnb. Why don't you give them a try? I'd say that most of our business has come through referrals. So we must be doing a good job.
Right. I guess it's the hardest part is the beginning, right? When you don't have any customers yet, because then no customers means no referrals.
Exactly. So when right at the start, referrals, that's not really an option. So that's when we relied more heavily on Google ads, being really targeted, being really clever, and because I'm quite happy to cold call people and all the rest of it. So you're reaching out to people, like I said, on Gumtree or Craigslist if you're in America, just speaking to anybody I knew that had properties in Edinburgh. Just being really, really persistent. I think having a salesperson as the spear, like as a founder, really, really helps, because a lot of startups are tech and things like that. It might be a guy who's like a really good software engineer or developer or something like that, but they're not maybe so confident going out and speaking to people. But if you've got someone who's confident at going and speaking to people, it helps a lot. But then the product might not be so good.
Let's talk about management.
Sure.
I know this is a big topic, a big challenge that a lot of people have, even people with way fewer listings than you do, even people with like 5 to 10 listings or so. It seems to be very difficult to find a good combination of a couple tools where you don't have any issues and everything always works. And so I would love to hear what kind of solution that you come up with in terms of managing all the listings, making sure there's no double bookings, and just making sure that your business runs smoothly and efficiently. So in the sense that you don't have to spend too much time.
Sure. So a big part of growing it is picking some good tools. So we use quite a number. So we use the first one that we ever started using and still use this day is AirGMS, because when we started, we were only putting properties on Airbnb. We found it a really good tool. The messaging part of it, the automation is so important, because if we get hundreds of messages a day, and a lot of them are. And we would probably get hundreds and hundreds more if we weren't using automations like sending and check-in details and reminding people of bookings and checking in on their bookings, that kind of stuff. We would probably have many more messages than we currently have. So that's really, really important. And I get the Airbnb and these other sites, it's about personalization, but you can do some personalization within these automations as well. And you've got templates as well. So we tend to use the templates, but then personalize them a bit for each guest when they're asking different things. AirGMS is really important. And then if you're looking to expand and go into other channels, you use a good channel manager. So we use a tool called Hostaway, which also has some listing management elements as well. So that helps us get onto other websites quicker. So, a lot of people start on one website, so they might start on Airbnb or HomeAway or Booking.com or whatever it is, and then think, I want to go on other sites, but how do I make sure all that works together? How do I avoid those double bookings? So that's when you get a channel manager. We found Hostaway quite good. They're very responsive to work with. And then you need to make sure that you're priced well. And we use a tool called Pricelabs for pricing to make sure that we're never too high, never too cheap. And that takes into account, you've always, no matter what city in the world you are in, you'll have different events or concerts and things like that where there'll be peaks. So you don't want to rip people off, but you don't want to charge them too little. So that's when tools like this can be quite handy, especially if you're not aware of everything that's going on in your city. Like an example, in Edinburgh, a couple of weeks ago, we had the Rolling Stones play. and that drew like 80,000 people to Edinburgh. So then the prices all go up. But if you're not a Rolling Stones fan, you might not know that that's going to happen. But if you've got pricing tool, then that's going to put your prices up. But then when you're not so busy and you're quieter seasons, that's going to bring down the price so that you're competitive with others as well. And then another tool that we use is Properly. So we use that for cleaning scheduling, which is really important. The two main things that are really, really important in being successful of managing short-term lets is making sure that you give really quick answers to people, really thorough answers, personal, and then making sure that your property is really, really well presented and as clean as possible, as hygienic. So we use Properly for that. So that allows us to create our cleaning schedule automatically. Then we just choose the cleaners where they need to go. And also we can send our cleaners really detailed checklists as well. So photos of, how the property should look when they're done, where certain items in the house need to go, like, the hairdryer should go in this place specifically. The TV remote, we like it set like this. We like a bunch of flowers put on this table like that. All these things that might be specific, because each property is unique and it needs set up in a different way. A one-bedroom apartment is very, very different from a 6-bed detached house with a huge garden. They need different types of cleaning, so that's really important. And we make all those linked together to make our business run smoothly and efficiently.
Wow, that was a lot of information there. Let me do a quick recap. So you've mentioned a lot of things. You mentioned Properly.
Yeah.
Shout out to Alex and Tammy, who are the founders. I actually interviewed them in episode 84. So if you want to know more about, if you want to know more about the Properly app, check out episode 84. AirGMS, I've also interviewed the founders. Actually, that was episode 210, and so you can listen to that one. Also, if you do sign up for AirGMS, I have a special deal. You can use code GPFYP30 and you get $30 off. Let's see, what else did you mention? Hostaway. You mentioned Hostaway, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a special deal for that one. Sorry, but
they're the four main tools that we use. Yeah.
Right. Hostaway. So I've actually did talk to the founder. Probably will interview them at some point in the future. But I've heard good things about Hostaway as well as AirGMS.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Pricelabs as well, right? So you're using Hostaway, AirGMS, Properly, and Pricelabs, and those four combined gives you basically all the tools that you need to manage your business efficiently.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, we still do have some spreadsheets and other archaic things, but that's our day-to-day tools that we use to make sure that we run our operation as smoothly as possible.
Right. One question I have is, how do you sort of combine these different tools? For example, I know AirGMS you can use. It's for Airbnb, right? It's for people who manage on Airbnb, not on other channels. They probably will develop that in the future. So how do you combine like AirGMS with, for example, Hostaway?
So at the moment they're standalone, and all our Airbnb accounts are integrated into AirGMS, and then Hostaway we have all our Airbnb accounts, and we have all our Booking.com accounts, all that kind of thing. So they are standalone, but if we're going to double check like on a double booking or something like that, so we'll look in AirGMS first, and then go into Hostaway to check the calendar. So we're using it as the calendar tool. So they're completely standalone, but Pricelabs integrates in that it pushes Pricelabs pushes the prices into Airbnb, and then Hostaway is able to grab the prices from Airbnb and then push them to the other channels and add a markup if we want to. So like Booking.com charge a higher commission from Airbnb, so we charge a higher price on Booking.com. And Hostaway is pushing that higher price. So those all work together. And then Properly can work with any of them. So I think they're working on a direct integration with Hostaway at the moment, but So the way that works is you integrate the Airbnb account into Properly, and then you add in iCals for the other channels that we use as well. So we only need to put in one iCal, which comes from Hostaway. So Hostaway's bookings are then going into Properly. If that makes sense. Probably quite confusing.
well, it is like if you've never managed multiple listings, like myself, I will in the future actually, but I'll talk more about that in some upcoming podcasts because I've got some plans developing in the background, also with regards to like managing other people's listings.
Sure.
But I'll talk more about that in the future. Maybe that's also one of the reasons why I want to talk to you, to kind of pick your brain.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, it's I mean, what I've heard from from people who are managing multiple listings and vacation rental managers such as yourself is that it seems to be very, very difficult and complicated to find like an efficient way to manage everything. Right? It seems like there's always going to be issues and things that don't work or problems that pop up. Is that the case for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, these things do happen. It's like any software. I used to work for a software company before getting into property, into vacation rental management, and we have bugs. Every software has bugs, unfortunately, and it's just how do they deal with them? That's the important thing. So if we contact the support from, AirGMS and say there's a bug with this, all of them, they usually get back to us pretty quickly and say, yeah, that's been resolved. It's so hard to test any software to eliminate all bugs. So as long as you're a fairly reasonable person, I'm not always that reasonable, but as long as you're quite reasonable and, if you work with, it's a bit of a partnership working with all these companies, because they're providing us with a service to help us grow our business, and lots of other vacation rental companies helping us grow our business. But then you need to let them know when things aren't working right so they can fix them. Or if you think of ideas as well, if you think, I think this feature would be really good. If you go to these companies and you hear a lot of people saying, yeah, this feature would be really good, then they'll probably develop it because other people want that feature too. So I think that's an important thing to realize is you might see them as a supplier, you're paying for a license for software or whatever, but they're also a partner as well.
I really like your mindset and your approach to this. I would say that's like a good mindset to have in general in life, right? When challenges come up or you feel like you have a problem, it's not so much that the challenge that affects your life, is more like, how do you react to it, right? And you can always choose how you react to any challenge that comes up. So I really like your mindset there. Let's see, we're coming to the end of the episode, but one more question that I wanted to ask you. We've talked about, how do you get new customers? How do you manage all these listings? I think those are probably the two most challenging issues, but I don't know, maybe is there anything else that you've struggled with throughout your journey with this company?
I guess as you're growing a company, outside of making sure you've got all these tools and providing a great service, the biggest challenge in any company, if vacation rental management or whatever it is always staff. Finding the right staff, because especially at the start, there's not many of you, and you all have to learn to work together. So finding the right kind of guys, girls, gals, whatever you want to call each other, that can all work together and get on. That's so important, because if there's only we're not a huge company in our office. There's 5 of us, so we all have to learn to get on, because you can't have a day where you're not speaking to one of them, because you all have to work together to make sure the job gets done. The property managers have to work with the customer service people to make sure that any issues are resolved. Or say, for example, the property manager finds that there's a maintenance issue that needs to get resolved that day, then they need to communicate with the customer service person, say, hey, we need this maintenance issue done. Can you let the guests know, make sure that's okay with them? That kind of thing. So I guess I kind of repeat myself a bit, but growing your company at the start, getting the right people early on is really important, as well as finding the right tools and finding clients.
So how do you find good staff?
How do you find good staff? You've got to find people who you can just, it's really difficult. We go through a lot of interviews, and it's just, I guess at the start, because I'm the founder, I'm interviewing these people and I'm just finding people that I click with. Like, do I think that they're going to be really good customer service? Do I think that person's going to be a really good property manager? And they don't always have direct experience in what they do. I don't look for people who, not always if they've got experience. I'm looking for people who I think have the right attitude, like, a customer service person has to be someone who's got a lot of empathy and be able to deal with difficult situations. When I'm looking at a property manager, I'm looking for somebody who's really, really organized. How are they organized in their personal life as well? So, yeah, it's looking for those people who not necessarily have the experiences. Do they have the right attitude?
That makes a little sense. Awesome. For those people, if there's people listening who happen to live in Edinburgh, how can they find you and how can they work with you?
They'll find us, so our website's airmanaged.uk. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Just search Daniel Parker. We're also on LinkedIn. And feel free, if anyone listening to this wants any advice or anything like that, feel free to drop me an email. I'm always happy to share in more detail about what I've talked about today, because I've covered a lot. I talk very fast. I've got a Scottish accent, so it might not be so easy to understand. So feel free to drop me an email at daniel.parker@airmanaged.uk.
And to conclude this episode, I just want to share like a quick anecdote. I actually just thought of this as you mentioned the Scottish accent. So I moved to the UK in 2002 to go study there. And as a student, obviously I had no money. So I started working at the St. Mary's football stadium in Southampton. Mm-hmm. And I was working behind the bar. And well, first of all, my English wasn't perfect at the time. So I was having a little bit of trouble even understanding most of my English colleagues and my English friends, especially the ones from London, because they talk a little bit different than, what I've learned in the classroom back in Holland. But then my manager was actually Scottish.
Right. Okay.
And so can you imagine, I moved to England and then I start working and I have a Scottish manager. And I was trying to understand her, but typically she would kind of yell at me from like far away, and then she would like tell me things to do and stuff. And I mean, oh my god, it was so difficult for me to understand what she was saying, and also I didn't want to keep asking like what do you say? What do you mean? So I would generally turn to my English colleagues, right? And I would tell them like, hey, did you like understand that? And I really felt like in the dark a lot of the times, and so at some point I told some of my colleagues, I was like, man, like it's really really challenging for me to understand what she's saying.
Sure.
And I thought it was my lack of the understanding of the English language, but then my English colleague was like, I don't understand anything either.
That sounds about right.
So that made me feel a lot better.
Yeah. Well, we're not the easiest to understand. Where I'm talking from today, Edinburgh, we've got what's called like a posh Scottish accent, and we're meant to be easier to understand. If you tried to speak to somebody from Aberdeen today on this podcast, like you wouldn't understand a word.
Okay, very cool. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think I've learned a lot from what you shared, and I'm sure the listeners appreciate it very much as well. And good luck with your company. I hope you'll do very well in the future. It sounds like you've got everything sorted out pretty well. So I'm sure you'll do well in the future. And maybe we can catch up another time and see how things are going there in Edinburgh.
Yeah, sure, cool. Thanks very much for having me.
So for people who want to check out the website, it's airmanaged.uk, not to be confused with .co.uk, because most English websites are .co.uk, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. I think somebody else bought that domain before us.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, but you know what? .uk is actually easier, so it might be a blessing in disguise. All right. Well, all to the listeners, thanks for listening, and I'll be back soon with another podcast. So keep an eye out, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Get paid for your pet. Get paid for your pet. Get paid for your pet.